Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Championship Sunday here on the third cup of the summer season of the Arena World Championship. This is the first cup, of course, of patch 8.2 in Battle for Azeroth, and we've seen some fantastic stuff coming out of the teams. We've seen surprises all weekend, the jungle cleave coming out of nLite, yesterday the move with their success as well as M2KC, and a whole plethora of Resto Druids for those teams to go through. I'm Healingstad and I'm hosting for you. We have Venruki, Supertees and Zico on the desk, and I mean, we'll be starting it off with Europe here today. We're going to have the top 4 teams from Europe, the top 4 teams from North America, and we've got some really good matches coming up ahead of us today.
I mean, to start it off, we're going to be having Zizon going up against nLite in the lower bracket, I believe, and that's going to be a really exciting match for multiple reasons. I feel like nLite bringing in the Discipline Priest with Zuniaki and running that jungle cleave is just really explosive games. I'm curious to see if they're going to be able to hang with some of the cleave setups that Zizon's going to be able to bring, but one thing's for sure, I think that's going to be a fast-paced game.
Yeah, I mean, we're really looking forward to that series. nLite were an absolute stunner yesterday, and we'll talk about Europe because we will be starting with Europe, but let's do a little teaser of the North American bracket, which will be coming up afterwards. Before we do get into the European side of the affair, you can see the Move and M2KC are the two surprising upper finalists in patch 8.2. Both those teams have been struggling down on the points. I don't think either of them currently are sitting in the top 4. And then two teams we'd really expect to be succeeding in North America would be the boys in Cloud9, but they're both struggling down in lower, Sid.
Yeah, 8.2 has been a bit of a toss-up for the teams, and M2KC and the Move appear to have gotten the upper hand of patch 8.2. I want to see how they fare head-to-head. I feel like if you're Cloud9, you're actually cheering for M2KC because M2KC and Resurgent are basically the only teams we've seen that can take games and series off of Cloud9. So Cloud9 would like to avoid them as long as possible. So they're going to be cheering for them, I can imagine, in the upper bracket, sitting in the lower one, assuming that they defeat the boys. I mean, I feel like every time they've gone against the boys that they're usually coming out ahead. That Mage Warlock Druid is super effective against their team in particular. I'm wondering what compositions the boys have prepared to deal with that, or if they're running more of the same and hoping that 8.2 changes things.
Yeah, and I think it's important to know Cloud9 has been struggling with some of these teams. I think their series against Resurgent yesterday at the very end of the day was probably my favorite series so far of the weekend. Absolutely stunning 3-2 victory in favor of Cloud9. But Zico, we should talk about Europe. We will be starting with Europe here, and we did see some surprises in the European bracket, both Wildcard Gaming and Change My Mind being eliminated before the top 4.
Yeah, I mean, Wildcard Gaming, they haven't really been having great performances in these tournaments the last, like, 2 cups, I want to say, being knocked out very early on, and that's a problem for their summer qualification for sure. On the flip side as well, Change My Mind, they had a really, really strong start to the season, but again, they have been falling off a little bit, and a lot of that is due to nLite, which we are going to be watching in a little bit. nLite bringing out that jungle cleave have just kind of taken everybody in Europe by surprise. They took down, the Chalky Milkman earlier on, and they took down Change My Mind. Now they're looking to take down Zizon as well. And Zizon, they have DK, they have Nerd Rage on that Warrior, have a lot of good comp options to take down something like a Disc Priest. So I'm very excited to see if Zuniaki can actually kind of survive that and still prevail with that jungle cleave. But they also do have Kara able to play that Ret Paladin. Maybe we'll see a Ret Warrior come out. There could be anything really happening from these guys, so I'm excited for that match for sure.
Yeah, me too. And as you can see, this is the standings. They are so close. nLite, the sole Discipline Priest of Zuniaki, aren't even on these standings right now. They're looking to play spoiler. They're looking to play upset, but Venruki in both of these regions right now, look at how close it is. NA, M2KC and the Move, they're the ones in the top 3 right now. They're the ones just outside top 4 before this tournament started. And in EU as well, Diabolos also having a fantastic tournament.
Yeah, I mean, Diablo's doing a great job. You can see right now they're out of that kind of top 4. I mean, there's 3 teams tied for 3rd right now, and Diabolos, if they can make a deep run in this tournament, they can definitely put their name in the running to make that top 4. And it's a similar story for teams like M2KC and the Move. If they can have a good performance, and it looks like they're going to, I mean, they have a lot of momentum going into today with their matchups earlier on in this tournament. It's just still anyone's game, and I feel like that's where consistency is really going to pay off for a lot of these teams.
Yeah, and I want you guys at home to take note of that point standing. happening, because it's going to be completely different at the end of this weekend. Of course, that was from the first 2 cups that we've seen of the summer season. This is the third. This is the first in the new patch 8.2, the new meta we've seen from these teams, and some definitely have adapted to it better than others. One of the things we should note as well is the gear. All these players are playing on the tournament server, meaning they have access to all of the PvP gear. They have 445 item level, and they're using the tier 3 of the essences, the new essences in patch 8.2. So these players, you know, if you want to be seeing what kind of essences you want to go toward for PvP Arena, definitely check out the extension. But these will be our first series. Zizon against nLite, and then Method Black versus Diabolos. Diabolos with a great Friday performance. Before we'll go into North America, which will be the boys versus Cloud9 Elimination Series, and then the Move versus M2KC, that old-fashioned peekaboo versus Jamili matchup. But let's start talking about this first series of the day. Zizon versus nLite. We were joking about this one on Friday, Zico, that this is probably the least favorable matchup we could have given to Zuniaki on a Discipline Priest.
Yeah, I mean, we know Zizon, they ran, you know, the Warrior, Ellie, Resto Druid, but I don't think that's going to be a comp that we're going to be seeing them on. I think something like the DK Warrior is probably very likely to come out of these guys. But in nLite's favor, I think they could actually take down a Warrior. Maybe we'll even see Nerdrage hop on that Windwalker Monk just to be a little bit more slippery. And we're going to have to see now, because we are going into the first game of the day, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see what does come out. This is the blind pick on the Grand Arena, the first series of our Championship Sunday here, the first Championship Sunday of 8.2 patch. Zuniaki, what's he going to be playing? He is bringing in that Warrior. It's Tanner on the Shaman, but they're going up against a mighty TSG of Zizon.
Yeah, Zizon locking in that Warrior Death Knight as predicted by Zico, but I did say on Friday when I saw nLite play that this is a team with these 2 compositions, the jungle cleave and these various counter cleave setups that they can run. If they can win a blind pick, they can easily win a series against any one of these top teams. If they can make this composition work, I think things are looking good for nLite.
Zuniaki knows that there is a Death Knight on Zizon. Absolutely not going to be wanting to lock in the Discipline Priest blind. Instead, going for the Retribution Paladin, trying to counter cleave. Let's see how the Retribution Paladin fares here in 8.2. Arms Warrior received significant buffs, so it's not surprising to see them on the opposing teams. Nerdrage taking a beating early on. It looks like Zizon want to be going after Tana. They want to be exploiting the Restoration Shaman's limited healing now that the Pack Spirit Azurite trait has been reduced, meaning that Tana will have to rely on casted heals, which can be interrupted and crowd controlled quite easily. So I do expect Restoration Shamans to become more of a target, but while they are targeting Tana down, they will be taking a lot of damage as they're giving their backs to both Kara and Zuniaki. Jamie appears to be the primary target for now, however. Pre-dampening, I actually think the Warrior or the Druid is a better target. Death Strike going to be a very effective way for the Death Knight to recover. Zuniaki engaging crowd control, activating that Sharpened Blade. Looking like they want to be going after Nerdrage, but in the meantime, Tana gets gripped into a fear, into a stun. Good follow-up, no Blessing of Sanctuary. Kara on the run, the main focus point for Zizon right now. It's a bit difficult to say as to who is in the lead. I would say that we're still it's too early to say. We need to wait and see if they can get a Divine Shield from Kara. I would say that the Retribution Paladin is the most likely target to be going down before dampening. Perhaps Tana if he slips up on his positioning, but so far, so good for both teams.
I mean, this is a composition that normally does work well against Cleaves, but I would say most of the pressure and momentum seems in favor of Zizon at this point. Jamie is taking a little bit of burst. Keep in mind, Death Strike, of course, is something you want to use after you take a big chunk of damage. And if Zuniaki can land a Sharpened Blade or a Disarm after they burst Jamie down a little bit, he's not going to be able to heal himself up nearly as effectively, and that's something that we can see nLite capitalize on. Tana under fire right now as he's forced to use his Astral Shift to reduce some of that incoming damage. Nice fake interrupt there. Nerdrage backs him up with a pummel, interrupting Tana, slowing down some of the heals. But now that he can free heal with these chain heals, he actually gets gripped on it, finally landing some heals. And we saw yesterday, Restoration Shaman with this chain heal specialization, if they can get those heals off, those casted heals, it's a lot of healing per second, but they are very susceptible to interrupts, so it's going to be up to Zizon, Jamie, Nerdrage, making sure they're interrupting as much as possible. Drainer now getting swapped to.
Yeah, is Gladiator's Safeguard going to be procced alongside the Bark Skin? This is a good swap onto Drainer. Some high value cooldowns forced out there. Kara running the new Essence, the Conflict and Strife for the Unbound Freedom, which allows him to cast Blessing of Freedom on 2 members of the team, himself and 1 other party member. This is a great counter to the Chains of Ice that Jamie brings on the Death Knight, allowing nLite a lot lot more mobility. Nerd Rage being swapped to as Drainer repositioned to recover. Iron Park forced out. Now they may look to switch back to Drainer as soon as possible. There's the Unbound Freedom. Zuniaki and Kara looking to connect, but at the same time, Zizon are going after Tana. Perhaps this game ends up being a healer race.
Yeah, they could go after Drainer right now. He's got no bar skin, might be in a little bit of trouble. He doesn't want to fall too far behind. He's getting low, looking to get away, but the one thing is, Jamie with that Chains of Ice, when Blessing of Freedom isn't available for Kara and Zuniaki, it's going to be difficult for them to stay on target. But I do want to highlight that Honor talent. I think it's really cool for the Retribution Paladin. For a long time, they struggled with their mobility, not being able to get out of snares, and every time they did use Freedom, it just got dispelled off. So having that undispellable Freedom for not only them and a teammate, I think there's a lot of potential there.
All right, let's see if nLite can do it. Running some unconventional specializations. Discipline Priest to get this far. Retribution Paladin, Feral Druid. I feel like probably some of the least represented specializations in the Arena World Championship Series, but nLite's making all of them work at the same time. Good crowd control chain here by nLite. Drainer in a Hex. Jamie disarmed and unable to use Death Strike for a little bit, but now out of that is using his Runic Power to restabilize. I think when we do get into dampening, that Jamie becomes a liability. The Death Knights and the Destruction Warlocks in particular, when we get to those deeper dampening stages, their limited mobility ends up really being exploited. Their self-healing becomes non-consequential. They won't be able to just survive with Death Strike alone. Mana is about even. I'm not sure if mana will inevitably be one of the reasons that this match concludes, due to the new essences that allow increased mana regeneration. I think it is much more so going to be the case of burst and crowd control in the current meta of 8.2. Right now, Zizon dishing out a bunch of damage. The main issue is that they want to attack the Retribution Paladin. They're normally pretty easy to kill, but with the build that Tana is running on the Shaman, if they're not attacking him, he's just going to be casting chain heals over and over, and it'll be very easy for him to heal. So Zizon actually have a pretty difficult decision. Do they pressure Tana and then give their backs to Kara and Zuniaki, or do they go after Kara and let Tana free heal? If Tana runs out of mana free healing, then perhaps that will work, but I'm not sure if he will. Earthen Wall Totem dropped down by Tana as he's death gripped into the fray. That is certainly one way for Zizon to get around this, is by pulling Tana into close quarters and then cleaving down multiple targets. Tana looks to reposition far away. nLite set up for a swap, but they get denied by Nerd Rage. Nerd Rage single-handedly taking control of Kara and Zuniaki, but Zuniaki continues the charge with Blade Storm and the Unbound Freedom. Both members are free of the Chains of Ice. Now switching back to Nerd Rage as Drainer repositioned. Nerd Rage on the run, leaping to safety, but now Jamie was left behind, and nLite are immediately switching to him. I do love the swaps happening from nLite here. It's building a lot of momentum, and later on in the match, this might be unrecoverable for Zizon.
Yeah, it could be really difficult. We'll see what nLite can get done. We're at 7% dampening at this point. Hammer of Justice secured on Drainer as they make a swap on him once again, really keeping Drainer guessing in this matchup. Who are they going to be going after? When Drainer is available as a target, it seems like that's their priority, but when he gets away, go after Jamie, force Drainer to never really get comfortable in the match. He's always either worried about a swap to himself or worried about picking Jamie up, and like we kind of talked about, Jamie on that Unholy Death Knight, not nearly as tanky as dampening ramps up in this matchup, but now you can see sort of the cleave damage coming in from nLite. Nerd Rage is low, Jamie getting a little bit low, Drainer getting swapped to once again. I like the strategy from nLite.
All right, let's see if they can keep it up, if they can stay alive. Tana now targeted down, 2 members on him. He is trying to escape with that Ghost Wolf, but unable to. He's going to drop Earthen Wall Totem. This will protect the whole team and reduce damage. Drainer going to place an Efflorescence on it as well to gain some bonus healing, knowing that the enemy team won't be moving. Tana decides to evacuate midfield, pull Nerd Rage and Jamie out of Drainer's line of sight, and then if Drainer moves in to heal, Zuniaki and Kara can swap. There's the Unbound Freedom, 2 members of nLite trying to run down Drainer, but he saw it coming, snuck away from the fight, and managed to go into stealth. So Drainer is actually invisible to his opponents, even though we can see him here on the tournament UI. Some good awareness there. Dodges the Hex by shapeshifting into travel form. Tana unable to find any crowd control off of that, but dampening is getting to a point where Jamie is going to start taking a huge amount of damage, and Tana is certainly not low enough on mana where I feel Zizon can be confident in this position. I do think it may become an inevitability where Jamie will fall. There's good pressure on Drainer even before dampening right now. He's on the run with that sprint, but Zuniaki's blade storming. Good mobility from Kara and Zuniaki. That's going to be the main point of contention for Zizon with the chains of ice. How much can they keep Zuniaki and Kara slowed down and stop their momentum? They're going after Nerd Rage while Drainer was trying to drink. Big hit. He's going to use that Glaive's Medallion, escape to safety with the Iron Bark. Drainer was unable to drink, but he's still very healthy on mana. Again, I don't think mana is going to be the name of the game here. It's purely about pressure.
I really like Unbound Freedom. Just watching it in this game every time. I love seeing the freedoms come up. Zuniaki, Kara free of the chains of ice, able to get crazy. But at this point, Zizon, they have a lot of pressure in the match. Interrupt now over on Tana. The Shaman, of course, very susceptible to interrupts. But if they can get off these casted chain heals, it is a lot of healing. And I have to say, Tana's been doing a really good job managing his mana in this match. I'm not sure if it's because Kara is able to assist him with some off heals with the Retribution Paladin. That kind of support can definitely pay off. But things aren't looking too bad for nLite. They're under pressure right now, but they have a lot of defensive cooldowns they can rotate through at this point. Jamie getting a little bit low. Anti-magic shell going to be traded out. There's no Icebound Fortitude, 23% dampening. Drainer with no Iron Bark is going to have a difficult time actually topping Jamie off. Kara moves over, the Hammer of Justice on Drainer. They get the crowd control they need. Full Fear. Zuniaki follows it up. Nice play. Drainer trinkets out immediately. Cannot afford to fall behind. And keep in mind, Tana, he's going to be able to use Purge. The Restoration Shaman, of course, that's one of their utilities. He can use Purge to remove all the Restoration Druid heal over time effects, but it's a gamble because if he uses too much mana, purging off those heals, then he'll go out of mana himself and it can backfire. You have to be very careful, very precise when they decide to pull the trigger with that ability.
I think this is a series that could easily go to Game 5. I feel like nLite are favored in this particular matchup. I think it's likely we see Jamie going down pretty soon, maybe within the next minute and a half. They need to do something quick, but what can they really do? There's still defensive options on all three members of nLite. Pressure is still building on Jamie. Hammer of Justice into a full Hex. Great crowd control, but Tana spent time hitting crowd control and not healing, so he fell a bit behind. He's going to pop Ascendance. That's going to boost his area of effect healing. He can heal multiple members on the team simultaneously. A good recovery mechanic in this position. Tana fake casts Jamie's Mind Freeze, now freely casting the team to full. Nice play on his part. Good recovery by nLite. Now it's time to get aggressive. Zuniaki charging forward. Kara looking to connect. Where's the Unbound Freedom? Both of them in chains of ice. They need that Blessing of Freedom as soon as possible. Zuniaki is not going to be able to connect without it. Doesn't look like it's on cooldown just yet. There it is, Unbound Freedom. Two members of nLite connect. Sharpened Blade, big burst. This is going to be difficult for Drainer. He activates Iron Bark. Looks like Jamie is fairly stable. He wants to be targeting down Tana. Tana drops the Earthen Wall Totem. He looks like he's going to be all right. They force Jamie to run away and force him to retreat. Zuniaki charges to Drainer, gets the full Intimidating Shout. Kara is still hammering down onto Jamie. He used Divine Shield to get uptime. Jamie now disarmed, unable to use Death Strike while disarmed. Looking to force Icebound Fortitude, but Zuniaki can't connect. He gets stunned away by Jamie. There's the Unbound Freedom. Two members again of nLite chasing down Jamie. No Iron Bark. Icebound Fortitude is all that's left. They likely need to trade it. Zuniaki goes into battle stance. He's going to be doing a lot more damage. How are they going to hold on here? Dampening now at 36%. No Icebound Fortitude. He pops it at 5% health. This might be too little too late from Zizon.
Yeah, there's the Freedom once again on Zuniaki, on Kara. They're moving in. They're trying to take down Jamie. I think they're going to be able to do it. If Zuniaki can get there, it's Execute City. Jamie getting lower, and Zuniaki finally takes him down. 38% dampening. nLite with big surprises in game number 1.
Absolutely incredible. nLite, not only do they hold down the Discipline Priest Dream, they're also bringing in the Retribution Paladin Dream. I know Vanguards would be so proud here of Kara. Absolutely excellent. You know, we talk about the Frost Mage being a counter to the Retribution Paladin. I thought it was going to be the same with the Chains of Ice from the Death Knight, but that Unbound Freedom really seems to change the game, Zico.
Yeah, the Unbound Freedom, just allowing both of them to have a lot more uptime. It seems, we were joking around a lot about Red Paladin yesterday, but they seem to have figured it out. Also, I was joking around a little bit about the Resto Shamans, and just in general, I've been saying that I'm not really impressed by how Resto Shamans are now that the Pack Spirit got nerfed. But Tana, he held it down. He played his game to like 40% dampening, had a huge mana lead for the majority of the game, never really had to use his defensive cooldowns, wasn't in any real trouble like that, and he could assist you with purges. His chain heals were doing a lot of healing as well. The hexes, time and time again, you know, right there, Stormbolt Hex, securing the trinket from Drainer, and then, you know, a Hammer of Justice as well. The Purges are coming out here, and unfortunately for Zuniaki, he doesn't connect that Fear there onto Drainer, which didn't end up mattering, but still massively ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Resto Druid meta. I think it's fair to say we've seen by far and away Resto Druids dominating in terms of representation, but this team has basically held down the other healers, right? Like, Drainer's played a little bit on the Monk. We've seen some Paladin, but these guys have been basically the only team running the Resto Shaman and the Discipline Priest. That's been the two healers they've used to get this far, and they're looking great, you know? It's patch 8.2. Their composition's completely seemingly out of the meta, but they're looking like they could get to the top 3 in Europe here today.
Yeah, well, we all thought Zizon was gonna, have a pretty decent time in this series, just play DK into Disc Priest, but no, they have an answer for some of these melee cleaves, and it's gonna be interesting because there's 2 Rogue Mages as well waiting in the wings, and we could see another jungle versus Rogue Mage if nLite can win here, and it's not just the healers that they're playing that are like a bit off meta. They're playing Disc Priest and Resto Shaman, but they're also playing Red Paladin and Feral Druid, and that's something that we also don't see from pretty much anybody.
Yeah, it's really fun. I love watching nLite. I love seeing Zuniaki. I remember back in 2014 when I was playing with him, he was playing the Warrior. You'll remember in 2012 when you beat him in the final, he was also playing Warrior. This guy holds it down on the Warrior as well. So absolutely incredible stuff coming in from nLite. But let's talk a little bit about Zizon here, because these guys do have composition answers, and we wouldn't expect them to go down 0-3 to nLite.
I doubt it. I feel like if we see a Retribution Paladin locked in, it's Elemental Shaman. Jamie's going to have a lot more fun playing his Elemental Shaman than playing a Death Knight into this composition. So I think that's likely what we see. You could even run the Warrior Elemental Shaman, which I think is always a decent answer into some of these cleave setups, but we'll have to see what they decide to do. I feel like for nLite, they might decide to play the map. Maybe they don't blind lock in the Ret Warrior, and I kind of wonder if they have anything else. We've seen them play Ret Feral before. Maybe that's something that they might consider running. They are going to lock in the cleave on Tolvaron. I think Zizon knows exactly what they want to set up, and they're looking to put another point on the board. Yeah, I mean, Zizon looking to tie up the series here, of course, and with the biggest map in the pool, we can expect to see probably Jamie coming in on a caster, maybe Mercy as well. Do you think, Sid?
I think on this map in particular, yeah. I think it's going to be Elemental Shaman, Destruction Warlock, Restoration Druid from Zizon. This looks to be what they would like to set up, and I think nLite blind locked in, anticipating that, and they want to see if it can work. I mean, if nLite can avoid a fight until Deeper Dampening, then run down the Warlock, I feel like they could potentially win with that strategy against Zizon. Also, nLite with the Restoration Shaman, maybe if they're running a similar talent build to what Metaphors was playing yesterday, where the Chain Heal can dispel out magic over time effects, that is really annoying for an Elemental Shaman because they want Flame Shock on 3 players. It has a long cooldown, so if that's being dispelled frequently by the Chain Heal, you inhibit all of the Elemental Shaman's generation of Lava Burst, which is pretty hard-hitting spell, and Maelstrom generation as well. The Restoration Shaman could actually have a place in the current meta right now, so maybe Zizon don't go for that. I mean, they're taking a long time to lock in. It doesn't seem like they are 100% on what they want to play, otherwise they would have, I feel like, already have locked it in. It's obvious that they're discussing what they want to play.
Yeah, I do want to. We see the wall. You don't seem too confident in this one, Zika.
Not a big fan.
I think Ellie would have been better.
Yeah, I want to see either Ellie Warrior or Ellie Windwalker.
Yep.
With a Druid. Because, it's really hard to kill Windwalkers. For this composition, it's really hard to kill an Ellie. And, I mean, they can just burst the Ret eventually, take him down, but...
Why do you think the Destro is so much worse?
Well, because the Destro isn't mobile. Like, the Ellie, he's going to be running around in Ghost Wolf. You're going to have, the melee slowing the other melees. And the Ellie also has a purge for the freedom, at least on the Warrior, right? So the Ellie is going to get away, but the Warlock is not going to get away. If nLite wants to, and this is something they have done in the past, by the way.
I want them to.
You guys all know what I'm talking about. They're going to stay behind the pillar and just coast a little bit,
I love nLite. Like these guys, they're just the French roster, right? Like all of them from France. They love playing together. I think this is kind of like the casual team. You remember Kara was playing with AWC. He won BlizzCon. He was like, okay, I'm just going to chill now, play with my friends, get some casual top 4s in Europe. Why not? And I mean, these guys used to play this comp with Flubber, I think, on the ladder. They played with Flubber, the Ret Feral, and every single time I played against them, it was 80% dampening. They didn't come out unless it was Incarnation, and that was the kind of win conditions. So they're definitely not afraid of that strategy.
Play to win, and I feel like they can do that on this map against the Destruction Warlock, and I kind of hope they do, because for a team like nLite, it's going to be really important. I mean, they need to do everything they can, every advantage they can find.
Yeah, especially with this comp.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at points, they're not a team that's really in the standings right now. They need to make a deep run in this tournament. If they can, exploit Zizon making what I think is not the ideal pick, then I think they should do it.
Yeah, I know, I completely agree. And I was saying backstage before we went on broadcast today, it would be for me, it would be kind of like the dream story if Zuniaki, after all this time being on rosters that haven't quite worked out for him, manages to make it to the summer finals. The first patch didn't go so well for him. He's not even on our top 8 on our sheets right now. And if he were to make it through the top 4 with a strong performance in the remaining 4 cups, that would be such a great story, I think.
Yep. So far, patch 8.2, I think, has been pretty good for nLite. They had a smart blind pick, anticipating the Death Knight, because that's going to be the main class that all these teams want to be running into Zuniaki. So instead of him just locking in the Discipline Priest, play the Warrior instead. The Restoration Shaman looked solid in this, and it's mostly because there's actually 2 targets you want to attack. Like Kara, I think, is pretty easy to kill, but not if you've got a Restoration Shaman that's just hammering out gigantic chain heals. So then you have to attack the Shaman, but then you're leaving the Rep Paladin open, and that's too dangerous to just leave Kara open. So that's actually a point where you have 2 high priority targets, and they're both normally good, but they support each other so well that they shore up the weaknesses that they'd normally bring. And then, of course, you just got Zuniaki, who's just running around doing a bunch of damage on top of that. So the combination of the Rep Paladin and the Restoration Shaman appears to be a good one.
I think the Blessing of Wisdom is another thing. Yeah. All the regeneration that Tana has allows him to just bomb out those chain heals, which are normally really inefficient, but when you combine all the essences and Blessing of Wisdom, it's just so much mana regeneration that he's able to have. And we saw at the end of that game, Tana actually had more mana than the Restoration Druid, which is something we don't normally see.
And that's why this chain heal build fell out of popularity last patch, right? Was because it was kind of mana inefficient. You're basically spamming an inefficient AoE heal, but when you have the help of the essences, the help of the Rep Paladin, it seems like the mana for the Shaman's pretty good, and the throughput healing is definitely there. But we are ready to hop into Tolvaron Arena here. This is game 2 of an elimination series between nLite and Zizon. All of us made our predictions on Twitter. You can find our Twitters to go check them out and make your own predictions as well. I think almost all of us had Zizon coming through here, making it potentially even into the grand finals. So we'll have to see how this game does go. Tolvaron Arena, the biggest map in the pool, and Zizon looking to put a point back on the board.
All right, let's see if this composition works. I'm not 100% sold on it. I think if nLite just play it patiently, break out their pillows, break out their sleeping bags, and then tent up on the pillars, I think they'll be able to avoid Mercy until Deep Dampening. If Nerd Rage ever overextends, they can push him away. Looks like nLite don't want to go on a camping trip, though. They're going to immediately be attacking the Warlock. Maybe just feel it out, see how much pressure they can really take. Perhaps they can just overwhelm the Warlock even before dampening with this composition. It's one that we haven't seen a lot. Nerd Rage is trying to switch targets over to Tana. Drainer stuns him for him, but with that Earth Grab Totem, Nerd Rage is forced to use Blade Storm to break out. And he's still chasing Tana for now. Mercy, in the meantime, has to deal with Zuniaki and Kara. Nerd Rage going to charge back and peel away Zuniaki, as he did get crowd control into Drainer, allowing Mercy to easily recover through the initial attack.
Zuniaki, Kara, they're going to be chopping up Mercy for a little bit in this game, but we've seen Destruction Warlock just so durable. I don't even think a Retribution Paladin and a Warrior are going to be able to take him down, and if they do, I'm going to be very surprised. So maybe nLite will be able to prove me wrong, but normally we don't see the Destruction Warlock fall down before dampening, especially with the Restoration Druid healing him. But at the same time, maybe they'll be able to get Drainer to tax his mana quite heavily in this matchup. If they can get him out of mana or low on mana as you enter dampening, then that could be the strategy nLite is potentially going for. Drainer and a Hammer of Justice, good damage coming in. Tana just spamming out heals. And you can see his mana is doing quite well. He's still ahead over Drainer. And although there's good pressure from Zizon on nLite right now, things are quite stable. I mean, they still have every single one of their defensive cooldowns.
The build from Tana is entirely unique, running the Vitality Conduit, so some of the damage is split between the team members. Normally this would be pretty difficult to do, but it's smart because the Destruction Warlock is mostly single target, so it turns the Destruction Warlock into more of an area of effect class, which Chain Heal loves. Chain Heal loves to heal area of effect, so Tana has managed to build his Shaman in a way that turns the single target damage of Zizon into into area of effect, and then his build is completely counteracts area of effect damage.
It's like Spirit Link in a way.
Yeah, the old school, the Honor Talent, Spirit Link, it's very similar. Tana going to be jumping in some big heals. There's decent damage right now from Nerd Rage and Mercy. Kara both sub 50% health. Tana appears to be struggling. Zuniaki leaps in for crowd control. Tana pre-tremors the Fear into the Hex, onto the Fear. Beautifully done here by Tana. Perfect prediction of crowd control incoming. Then great at crowd control himself, but unfortunately, Mercy just taking 0 damage.
Yep, I mean, that's kind of what we predicted. Destruction Warlocks are quite tanky early on, but that's also their weakness, is later on in the game when they don't have that same sort of self-healing, they can fall down quite easily. And now, Mercy's actually getting low. This could be danger time. Still has the unending resolve, but not going to rely on it just yet. If they have to overlap, they keep getting low! What is happening right now? Huge damage from nLite. Mercy still did an unending resolve. He got really lucky to live there. I mean, he lived at 2% health. They almost killed him through Iron Bark. I cannot believe it.
Oh, I can't believe it either, but Zizon get away with it. Now Infernal's still available. I'm wondering when Mercy is going to pull the trigger on his most powerful ability. He's held onto it for some time, maybe waiting until Tana's in crowd control. Tana line of sights the Fear, avoiding it, so Mercy doesn't see an opening. Drainer's in a stun. Kara and Zuniaki trying to develop pressure. Going after Nerd Rage now, realizing that the soul leech healing of the Warlock might be a little bit too much, so attacking the Warrior instead. Trying to force Drainer to have heal over time effects on the 2 members. This will force him to expend a lot more mana. Decent damage onto both sides at this point, with Kara at 50% as well as Mercy. Mercy secures the Fear, but Blessing of Sanctuary from Kara. Another great utility that the Retribution Paladin brings into the fight. Going to be removing that crowd control instantaneously. Tana's in position to perhaps Hex Drainer, although Drainer repositions now. Tana's chasing him. I think nLite want to play for the kill here shortly. If they can get one of those Hammer Justices into a Hex, certainly Mercy could be in trouble. Mercy drops the Unending Resolve to secure crowd control. Mercy wants to get aggressive. He's also called in Infernal, so he's activating his defense to get aggressive, and so far it's really melting down the health bars of nLite, but if it doesn't get a kill, he is going to be significantly behind, and it doesn't look like he's able to get a kill. Drainer knows that Hex is a very powerful crowd control, so he goes into bear form before the stun to deny the Hex incoming afterwards. Mercy secures, though, a spell lock on Tana, interrupting his heal. Nerd Rage gets follow-up crowd control. Kara, though, is there with the Blessing of Sanctuary to remove it. Tana now in position and no spell lock available to top the team, although Drainer at some point in this match has regenerated a huge amount of mana, and the mana lead that nLite had in Game 1 is not the same here in Game 2, and that could be a way that Zizon find victory.
I just wonder, at what point in the game is nLite going to realize maybe they should just run and hide, just push during Avenging Wrath? I mean, that's when we saw Mercy just get so low and then kind of just stall it out, wait till dampening. I mean, that could play into their favor. Tana actually recovering a lot of mana here. I'm not sure if he got to sit down for a drink or what. He actually gets spell locked. Zuniaki could be in a little bit of trouble. Fear on Kara. Get nice plays by Mercy setting up his team, but Nerd Rage is getting low. Drainer's once again having to expend a huge amount of mana. Iron Bark onto Mercy is going to force nLite to change target, but they just have so much cleave damage coming in from the Retribution Paladin with this Avenging Wrath. You can see that offensive cooldown, Kara's nameplate, it's on fire. Every time that's up, he's going to be doing massive AoE damage, especially if Nerd Rage and Mercy are standing on top of each other. Full Fear over onto Tana. Mercy at around 40% health. A lot of damage incoming.
Okay, so Mercy ended up making the first kind of newbie mistake here with the essences. So when you run Conflict and Strife, it gives you a 3rd honor talent. But he changed the essence and then forgot to select the 3rd honor talent. So he's only playing with 3 honor talents. And guess what one he's missing?
He doesn't have demon armor on.
He's missing demon armor. The thing that makes you basically immortal to melee. He actually doesn't have the thing that is supposed to make warlocks good against melee, and he's still not dying.
I was looking at it thinking, it's literally impossible that he's taking this much damage as a destruction warlock. That's why he doesn't have demon armor.
He doesn't have demon armor. Okay, all right. Kara and Zuniaki, they could easily clean up this game. Drainer's probably wondering what is going on right now. How am I having to heal just so much in this matchup? And that is absolutely unbelievable. Mercy's still alive at this point. Full Fear over on Tana. Blessing of Sanctuary coming in from Kara. That's going to be freeing him up. That utility is just really strong. I love that Kara's showcasing the Retribution Paladin here. I know Vanguard's in the back. He's probably very happy right now. disarm over onto Kara from Nerd Rage. Good pressure mounting now for Zizon. 10 is definitely going to have to play a little bit of catch up, but look at nLite. They are getting low, but they still have everything. They have Blessing of Protection, Divine Shield, Spirit Link Totem, every single defensive cooldown that they need to stay alive in this game, they have held on to, and we're in dampening now. Things are going to start spiraling out of control for Zizon very quickly, especially because there's no demon armor for Mercy.
I mean, if they end up losing this, it might actually mislead nLite if they don't know that. They're like, wow, we actually do damage to the Warlock. Let's keep playing this. But, I mean, he doesn't have demon armor. At this point, Zizon expend all of their defensive lineup to survive the push. There is good counter pressure onto nLite. Kara and Zuniaki sub 50%, but Tana has the Ascendance, that boost of area of effect, healing the chain heal build, super effective, and now Mercy is likely to fall. There is not much defense left, and that big mistake of not selecting the demon armor honor talent is, I think, 100% going to cost Zizon game number 2. This is unrecoverable pressure now at 15% dampening. There's the secured crowd control. Mercy is all alone and will get decimated. nLite get a free win there in game number 2. Even still with demon armor, I think maybe even in dampening, nLite can win the matchup, but they need to play completely different than they did. Maybe they did know that information, and that's why they were playing aggressive. They can see the demon armor on the buffs of the Warlock, and they're like, wait, why is there no demon armor? So that's why they played aggressive?
I would never look at that, though. Like, if I was playing the game, I would just assume he always had it. You know, I would never be like, okay, let's make sure there's demons, there's checklist, all right, yeah.
It's crazy. Like, we were looking on one of our observer computers, and we could actually see the buffs of him, and he had like 30 buffs, you know, because he has all of the procs from Azerite, he had everything. I was like, I'm pretty sure Demon's armor's not there. And then Zuniaki's doing like 22k DPS on an arms warrior, attacking someone that's supposed to have so much armor. That was kind of a crazy mistake, but I guess there are lessons to be learned there. Be careful with conflict and strife as an essence.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think that there isn't too much to add to that, honestly. Mercy, playing without demon armor is, you know, how much is it? It's 150% more armor.
Yeah, plus more stamina,
plus
I think.
You get more HP. It's pretty good against a warrior and, you know, a red paladin. But the comp in general, I don't like that Zizon went for a warlock pick to begin with. I mean, as an Ellie Shaman, it's not like you can forget to pick demon armor, but more importantly, you actually have Ghost Wolf, so you can actually move around and use the map. I feel like having the Warlock, at least if it's not a double caster comp as well, it's just like, well, what's the point of the Warlock? What's the point of the map? You can just play on a smaller map, and it's basically going to be the same result. Zuniaki and Nerd Rage, they're able to still stick on the Warlock because, you know, he doesn't have the most amount of mobility. And eventually, even if he has demon armor in dampening, they can easily just stay behind a pillar, wait for, you know, 30%, 40% dampening, and then go in and just all in the Warlock. So I feel like the comp pick as well as the talents was an issue for Zizon.
Yeah, the comp pick wasn't great. The fact that he was cosplaying an 8.0 Affliction Warlock wasn't great. Honestly, not looking fantastic there for
I feel like
Mercy.
Some of the players taking advantage of the transmog options, kind of like hide pieces of their armor when they fight. This was not a good idea.
No, it didn't work out. Obviously, just a little mistake on the side of Mercy. Whether the composition would have worked out or not is anyone's guess, but nLite are 2-0 up in this series. Absolutely crazy. It's looking like we're trying to get a few new teams here potentially going toward that BlizzCon. If you do want to support these teams, you can purchase the in-game toy as shown and advertised on your screen. A portion of that will go towards the prize pool for BlizzCon, which of course all these players are contending for. We're at a very interesting situation here. You know, Zizon, we've been talking about them, how they've been so improved throughout this season. You know, they're currently sitting number 2 in Europe, just behind Method Black. Well, significantly behind Method Black because they've been wiping the floor of everyone in Europe so far this season. But hey, nLite, you know, they're not going down without a fight. They've already beaten 2 of the big contenders, and now they're looking to take down Zizon as their third, and they're looking great this cup.
Yeah, nLite's doing an incredible job, and I think Zizon is doing the opposite, to be honest with you. I don't like this composition pick once again. I mean, maybe with Demon Armor, it's going to be a little bit different, but I feel like if nLite can extend the game long enough, it's going to be a similar result. Eventually, the Retribution Paladin, the Warrior, you have a Restoration Shaman with Blessing of Wisdom just bombing out these huge heals, and if they want to, they can just run and hide, and I feel like that plays into their advantage. Zizon definitely in a world of trouble. Maybe they know something I don't, but I think things are looking really good here for nLite.
Yeah, bear in mind, this is an elimination series, ladies and gentlemen. I know there's a lot of fans of Zizon and Drainer in the chat, so you guys make the energy be known for this team because they need it now more than ever. nLite aren't even in the top 8 in Europe right now, and they're looking to go through to the top 3 in this cup alone.
I'm refreshing the inspect client because
we gotta see.
Want to make sure. Wait, okay, he might be running Conflict and Strife this time. That's the only thing that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, he has Demon Armor this time. Mercy has equipped the tool that is really good for him against this team. I mean, it's basically one of the main reasons he can survive this first attack for sure. Trainer Trinketing out, connecting Iron Bark for the first big push of nLite. Zuniaki, though, has held on to his Sharpened Blade and his Warbreaker, so this may have been a bit of a bait from nLite to try and pull defensives from Zizon, and then they can move forward with the Sharpened Blade, Hammer of Reckoning, Warbreaker. Now that Iron Bark's over, Zuniaki is activating those abilities. Actually going after Nerd Rage, trying to switch targets, force Trainer to expend a lot of mana, but he had Innervate rolling, which makes all of his heals free. Well timed by Drainer, getting a lot of efficient healing. In the meantime, though, Kara secures crowd control on Drainer, then immediately connects onto Mercy with that Hammer of Reckoning and Avenging Wrath, and the crowd control follow-up from Zuniaki. This is devastating. Mercy, double Mortal Coil to deflect the assault. Entrenched in Flame, Conflagrate Root there on the Kara and Zuniaki to try and stall the reconnect, but he is still taking a beating. It's almost, I'm almost wondering if he does have Demon Armor, if he remembered to press it to buff himself, because this is a surprising amount of damage from nLite.
Yeah, it's there.
It's no guesswork. We can see it.
Yeah, we double-checked this game for sure.
Triple check.
Nice monitor over there.
That's true. I can see these things. The all-seeing eye. All right, Mercy. He gets topped off. Things are looking a lot better for him. But, I mean, even without Demon Armor, it took nLite a little bit of time to take Mercy down in the last game, and I think it's going to be a similar story. But there has been big moments of burst here for nLite. And whereas for Zizon, I mean, Sid, what do you think their main win condition is? Do you think that? I don't think they're going to get 10 out of mana.
It's Spell Lock, Tana, cleave damage on Kara and Zuniaki, I think, is their main win condition. So Mercy needs to be landing these Spell Locks. Fortunately, though, Tana actually has a way to get around it with the Spirit Walker's Grace. That is going to be allowing him immunity to incoming interrupts, such as the Spell Lock. So if there is ever a stressful situation, Tana can avoid it with that. But he has been using the Spirit Walker's Grace to get hexes and avoid the Spell Lock, so maybe they can punish that aggressive stance. Nerd Rage gets crowd control on Tana, out of line of sight of Kara. Kara wanted to come back and use Blessing of Sanctuary, but he was too far. Now two members caught in stuns. Kara the target here. Sharpened Blade for Nerd Rage. Going to be reducing the incoming healing on Kara quite significantly. Tana peculiarly is repositioned maybe on top of the Warlock. Maybe he's going to go for some Purges. This is a decent amount of damage. There's the Spirit Walker's Grace from Tana. Spell Lock not going to be able to be landed, and it allows him to recover. Mercy has Dark Soul rolling. He really wants to be dishing out some Chaos Bolts during this time, but he is just looking for fears. He does Spell Lock Tana, but it's he who is in trouble. The amount of damage from nLite's composition looks devastating, and I do think our criticism that they should not be bringing the Destruction Warlock in on this matchup. The Elemental Shaman would be much more favored. Even the Elemental Shaman Warrior, Elemental Shaman Windwalker, Elemental Shaman, just get rid of the Warlock. I feel like this is going to end up being a bit of a liability. I mean, at any point, nLite could decide, all right, we're done playing with Mercy. We're just going to stay at the pillar, wait until dampening, and then run you over if they really wanted to. And I think that's almost guaranteed victory if they decide to do it. But they are playing it out, and maybe actually even giving Zizon an opportunity to get a kill as a result. I don't think that it's likely we see them overwhelm Mercy. Maybe they want to make sure they have a mana lead. Spell Lock landed on Tana. This is supposedly the winning strategy for Zizon when Tana can't heal when he's Spell Locked. They want to burst down a target, but they don't have enough burst. Kara now has the Avenging Wrath active.
Look at this damage.
Huge damage from him onto two members of the team. Iron Bark only going to be defending one. Nerd Rage could be swapped to at any moment. Mercy at least recovers for now. Zuniaki, the target of Nerd Rage. Tana moving forward. Curious if he's looking... Oh, he's actually looking for a win shear on Drainer. Tana has been harassing Drainer throughout this series, just staying on top of him, constantly looking for hexes, wind shears, making it difficult for him to recover, which is exactly what he should do. I will say Tana is doing a phenomenal job representing the Restoration Shaman after we watched how abysmally awful it looked from Burley's perspective. The build that he's decided to run, the composition that nLite are playing with it, works so well in tandem that I think they're actually going to be able to outdo Zizon.
I mean, things are looking really good for nLite, and I feel like for some of these healers, you know, nLite kind of figured out that when you run a Discipline Priest, it's nice to have the support from the Survival Hunter as well as the Feral Druid. You get a lot of support with those two classes. Then, of course, with the Restoration Shaman, you kind of need the support of the Retribution Paladin. You get a little bit of extra healing, you get the Blessing of Wisdom, and when you pair those classes together, things actually don't look too bad. I mean, they're staying in the game. Tana's mana is doing quite well. He's dealing with the damage quite easily. And Zuniaki and Kara have been able to put out a ton of damage in this match so far. Of course, Drainer's mana is still doing quite well, but we have just entered dampening, and I really can't help but feel like as that number goes up, nLite is going to be looking better and better in this matchup so far. You can see Zuniaki still has his Die by the Sword, Kara still has the Divine Shield. Maybe they could force it in this moment, but with the Avenging Wrath, I feel like it's unlikely. Tana just spamming out the heals right now and does manage to top off his entire team. Chain heal is really good.
Yeah, this build from nLite is really good. Nerd Rage in trouble. Can't use Die by the Sword while disarmed, but Mercy saves them with a double Mortal Coil. Kara now trying to lead the charge. Avenging Wrath active. Going to be doing a lot more damage here towards Mercy. There's no defense for him. Unending Resolve on cooldown just as dampening starts. That is not good for Zizon. It's looking more and more likely that nLite are going to take this 3-0. nLite, the team with a Discipline Priest, a Restoration Shaman, a Retribution Paladin, a Feral Druid, and a Survival Hunter. Probably those 5 together, there are other specializations, maybe like Demonology, that are lesser represented, but I would say overall, they're the underdogs in the tournament setting that has just been dominated by Restoration Druids, Destruction Warlocks, and Unholy Death Knights. So perhaps nLite can just counter the meta rather than force themselves to play along with it. They've been doing a great job so far, although we will say Zizon through game 2. Not having Demon Armor was a big mistake. Perhaps that will be enough, but the way that this match is playing out, it's not looking like it.
I mean, I think the biggest mistake was just the composition that they locked in. I feel like they really do have better answers. Maybe they know something we don't. Maybe they can make it work, but things just seem to be in favor of nLite at this point. Mercy, of course, on the Destruction War, like he can't get away. The Unbound Freedom for Kara and Zuniaki, they just have freedom. There's nothing really Nerd Rage can do to peel them up. I mean, he has Disarm, of course he has Stormbolt, but those are minimal tools to get a Retribution Paladin and a Warrior off your teammates. Although this is massive damage right now, Tana's definitely going to have to recover in this moment. This is Dark Souls, this is Infernal from Mercy. It's a lot of incoming damage, but these are the moments where you would expect Zizon to be getting a Divine Shield, a Spirit Link Totem, something like that, and with their major offensive cooldowns, they can't even pull out the Divine Shield. Maybe there's enough damage, but Zuniaki's just been able to shut down Mercy. Pharaoh, once again, he's going to be sitting on top of Mercy, and this is where I think nLite's going to be able to recover. And now you can see their cleave damage really starting to add up. Drainer's managed taxed. It's about even with Tana at this point. Tana actually gets spell locked. Now this is a good situation for Zizon. They might be able to turn it around. Pharaoh with the Avenging Wrath looking to put out massive damage. Zuniaki's Safeguard procs as well. That buys Tana a few moments to actually toss out some heals, and now nLite, they managed to recover.
Yeah, they recover. Spell lock out of the way. Tana connects big chain heals. Now the defense is starting to crack for Zizon. Huge Warbreaker, Sharpened Blade. Zuniaki doing a lot of damage. Mercy in trouble. Dampening now at 18%. Will Ironbark be enough? Mercy repositions. Zuniaki's disarmed by Nerd Rage. Nerd Rage trying to support the Warlock as much as possible, but inevitably the defense is about to fall. 15 seconds still away. Maybe a swap onto Nerd Rage. They use a Hammer of Justice, a bit peculiar. Wasn't coordinated with the Stormbolt. That was definitely a blunder on nLite's part. That could have been a lot more devastating, but they get the Stormbolt into Hex. Tana's aggressive Restoration Shaman play has been critical for the team's ability to build momentum, but now Unending Resolve available. Likely going to have to be popped almost immediately, but he can't while he's wind sheared by Tana. Down below half now, big hits incoming. Mercy is trying to hold on to it, but has to use it. Even still, it may not be enough. They still have to get through Spirit Link. They still have to get through Divine Shield and Die by the Sword. There's so many options for nLite. Drainer's lower on mana. Spelllock, this could be the Divine Shield force. They have to get Divine Shield during this time, but Tana already had the Earthen Wall Totem down, saving him and allowing him to sit through the Spelllock. Tana playing this Restoration Shaman beautifully, repping it here today in the tournament in Europe. The only one really making it work and having success with it. This interesting build of Vitality, Conduit, Essence, the only player really running it. He's definitely a trendsetter here for nLite, and perhaps they can do it and make it through the Restoration Druid, Destruction Warlock, Nightmare meta. They might be able to just outdo it and set a meta of their own.
I would never have dreamt nLite would 3-0 Zizon. I made a prediction earlier today, and I'm going to be wrong instantaneously in this tournament.
We'll be wrong.
Yeah, all of us. Mercy gets caught into a stun. Big damage coming in. Infernals do get dropped out. This is an opportunity, but Drainer's in a stun. He's got no mana. Zuniaki wants to land the execute, and he does. That's it. nLite, beautiful performance. I have to say, excellent job representing not only the Restoration Shaman, but the Retribution Paladin. They're going to 3-0 Zizon.
This is completely outrageous from nLite. You know, we were criticizing it when Oz played this composition yesterday. Granted, it's a different matchup, but absolutely incredible. nLite, I mean, yes, there was the kind of slight gaffe with the lack of demon armor in game 2, just the missing honor talent because of conflict and strife, but no excuses this time. The warrior, the warlock, the druid just did not look like a favorable matchup into this Ret warrior, but commendations in order for nLite here, Zico. They looked absolutely incredible today.
Yeah, blinded by the light, lights out. Very, very nice performance here from nLite playing that Ret warrior, and we had this composition as kind of a question mark, to be honest. We've been talking about how this could be used to counter some of those melee cleaves, but I think, at least for myself, I didn't expect it to be able to perform this well. I kind of counted the Ret Paladins out just because Druid healing is really, really high, but it seems like the Rets still can get going, and the same thing goes for Rest Shaman. The Chain Heal build seems good. They are able to support the weakness of the mana pool when you're spamming those Chain Heals with the Blessing of Wisdom, and it seems like you can drag a game to 30-40% dampening, and this is also what we were talking about in terms of composition. I'm not a big fan of the Warlock, just because it's a Red Paladin. You want to have something that moves very quickly when you're fighting a Red Paladin, because that's their weakness. They're immobile.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I just want to say as well, thanks to this team, look at the class representation we've had in patch 8.2. These guys are making it look great. We've seen every single healer. I'm pretty sure with these guys included, we've seen every single specialization of melee, bar, a couple of the off-specs, like some rogue off-specs, Fury, Warrior. We've certainly seen every single melee class played, I think, throughout the weekend. Absolutely incredible.
Have you seen Demon Hunter yet?
We saw some DHDK, right?
It's Enhancement Shaman.
We haven't seen Enhancement Shaman, that's true. So we haven't seen Enhancement Shaman. But overall, we've seen a fair few, and a majority of them are coming down to nLite, who are through to Europeans top 3. We can see that now in the bracket. Absolutely incredible. nLite, look at the path. They've gone through the Chalky Milkmen. They've gone through Change My Mind. Now they 3-0 Europe's number 2 in the summer season. Zizon. I mean, none of us would have predicted it. None of us did predict it, Van.
I'm honestly just shocked, and I actually don't think this is too bad for nLite. I mean, with these two compositions, if they go up against a rogue mage, I think they can win with jungle. I really do. nLite's looking solid, but of course they're going to have to wait and watch who's going to be winning between Method Black and Diabolus, and I think that's